what got me first interested in copyright and the protection of it was before I could do anything about it. It was whilst I was working at Philips, because I was sort of, my official title was European Press and Promotions Manager. And I didn't touch the classical. There was another lady who did that called Gabby Stürmer. Anyway, I did everything else apart from that. And when the big thing happened that the Beatles were becoming such big sellers and so successful, of course all the other record companies started running around like headless chickens, trying to find groups that they could also make money out of. The irony was that most of them had turned the Beatles down, of course, already. However, that's life. And so lots of groups used to be brought in, and I would see these young lads wheeled in. They had to come and have a chat with me so I could get details for their publicity background, if there was a record being done with them to go out and that sort of thing. And so many times you'd ask them what they were recording, you know, well, what have you recorded in the studios? Well, they usually know the title of the A track, but the B track was just something that they'd been asked to sort of write something themselves if they had the ability to do it. So they'd knock something together, it would all go onto the tapes, and it would come out, and you'd say, well, what's happening with any of it? Well, what do you mean? No, they didn't really know. My question was, if you've written something, what is happening to it? Oh, well, they've told us that they're going to put it on the B side of our single. And the single, usually they hadn't played on anyway, it was session musicians. So they'd done the singing if their voices were good enough. And even then, a lot of the time it was overdubbed by pros later. But the B side, they had no idea. Now, all that stuff was gathered up, and if any of those records became successful, even if slightly successful, they never saw anything for it, because on the A side, if the sales were good, whoever was currently managing them would say, well, we'll get a bit more money for you now, lads, when we put you out on the road, which of course they would, but they'd only give the guys about a £5 each on top of what they would have got anyway. So they were working for peanuts and glad to be hired. They never saw any money back from the fact that if they did get a relatively good sale on their single, the B-side money was all going in the pockets of the people behind the scenes. Not the record company people, actually, but these little publishers that were nipping in all over the place, who knew exactly what they were doing. Quite a few of them old enough to be grandfathers to the artists concerned, but that didn't change the fact that they just scooped it up. And it horrified me, and I took it up with one of the A&R managers, and he said, well, you can try to do something about it if you like, but how long do you want to live?